Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the Morning Market Prep video for March 5th, 2025. Well, I hope everyone had a great afternoon, a good evening, ready for another wild day in the market. Let's take a look at what happened overnight. First off, if we take a look at our Asian markets last night, they were mostly higher, moving up pretty solidly. Only Australia was lower and down by 0.70%. The Nikkei rose modestly yesterday. We had India up pretty nicely, up 1.15%. Hong Kong surged 2.84%, and Shanghai was also up, along with South Korean markets moving higher. If we take a look at European markets this morning, European markets are sharply higher this morning, with the idea that there could be some relief to the tariffs. They are making some significant changes to increase their defense spend, which is one of those things that the president has been talking about, and looks like they're moving toward that and hoping that those tariffs will be relieved. DAX is up decidedly 3.38% or 755 points this morning. The FTSE moving strongly higher as well, up 0.43%, and the CAC is up 1.91% this morning. U.S. futures are also looking bullish here this morning after yesterday's wild ride, bouncing off supports. We've got the Dow futures this morning up 222 points at the moment. S&P 500 futures are up 34, and NASDAQ futures are looking up 154 points at this very moment. If we take a look at oil this morning, taking a look at XLE, you can see we're trying to bounce just a little bit yesterday, but right now we've got oil futures sharply lower, down a full $1.07 at 67.17 a barrel. So actual oil is moving substantially lower, and we have Brent crude down 83 cents a barrel at 70.22 a barrel. Natural gas also catching just a little tiny pullback, although it's showing us trying to pop up here on UNG. We are down 6 cents on natural gas at this very moment. If we take a look at bond prices here today, well, bond prices are moving up slightly. The 2-year bond is at 3.95%. The 10-year bond is at 4.24%, and the 30-year bond is at 4.54%. Interestingly enough, as that is happening, we're not gaining any strength in the dollar. Right now, the U.S. dollar is down 61 cents. And I think that's largely due to the big changes that are happening in Europe. We value currencies against other currencies, and the changes that Europe made increased the value of the euro substantially last night. Or this morning. So we'll want to be watching that closely as the dollar falls. It can be a result of a revaluing of the euro because of some changes that they are making there. So kind of keep that in mind. Let's take a look at our precious metals as a result here this morning. We've got gold moving higher again. Right now, gold futures are up $4.90 an ounce after a pretty substantial move yesterday. We've got silver moving higher here this morning. Silver futures are up 46 cents. And we've got copper. Let's look at COPX. Copper gapping higher here this morning after a nice hammering pattern in there yesterday. Platinum is up, and even palladium is looking slightly higher here this morning. So keep an eye on those precious metals. And then if we take a look at cryptos, big rebound yesterday in cryptos. Bitcoin, after falling hard yesterday morning, finding some price support here in the chart, bouncing up, and we're following through this morning with Bitcoin up $2,250 a coin. Ether is up $63, almost $64 a coin. 2.96% on Ether, 2.51% on Bitcoin, and mostly green in those crypto markets here this morning. So, what does all that mean for the day? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Wednesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thanks so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at these index charts, see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, we want to shake off that bias and realizing that the volatility of this market is very high. So you've got to be really careful, like a lot of folks I think found out yesterday, really careful with the idea of just rushing into the market or buying the dip up yesterday. It was a little bit painful as that last 30 minutes in the day we sold right back off. So some big shakeups happening here in the market overall, and I would expect that volatility to remain high. That being said, we're probably overdue for a relief rally here. So if we can get a little bit of bullishness going in the market, wouldn't be a major surprise. Looking at the Dow, as you can see, I had mentioned pushing on down in to fill that gap, that would be a pretty big move. Well, we didn't have any trouble doing that. In fact, we went on further and we came down into this area of price support before we found those buyers stepping up here in the chart. So now the question is, if those buyers can continue to follow through, can we push up strong enough that we can break back through this resistance here in the chart this morning? So watch that carefully. If those bulls can really get going, maybe we can pump through that area of the chart up here and see if we can break on through. If those bulls can continue to push beyond that, well, this is going to be kind of a significant area of price resistance to be watching for in the chart if we can push right on back up into there. Remember, if we look at our moving averages here, we'll be pushing up toward that 50-day moving average here in the chart, and we do want to recognize the fact that we're fairly close to that 200-day. So what I'd be watching for is any rally back up, that potential that we could roll back down and see that 200-day moving average. I don't think we're done with the volatility here at all. But the good news is it looks like we've got a little bit of relief rally on the way. Let's take a look at our SPY, SPY. SPY also trying to bounce up a little bit here this morning and get something going. Big question here for the day for the bulls. Can they push through this area of resistance in the chart? We'll want to be watching that pretty carefully. I had looked all the way down here after we'd fallen through support for that next level, but we ended up finding it right about there, finding that level, bouncing off of that. Let's see if we can hold that now. If we get any kind of retest of the low, if those bears have anything to say, retesting lows is not uncommon. Retest of lows, and then we see whether we can catch that bounce here in the market. If the bulls find any inspiration to push on through, then of course that push through, we'd be looking at that break of this resistance in the chart and start pushing through to the upside. So keep an eye on that. Now, for some reason, we're suddenly getting a pretty substantial pullback in that bullishness here this morning. The Dow futures were up over 220 points now only up 108. So we have halved those moves, and we're already starting to see that volatility showing up here in the pre-market. If we get any bullish action in here beyond this resistance, then watch that carefully. These big black candles up here will be something important that we'll have to break through in that chart. And if I were to extend this downtrend here, breaking back up through that area could be vitally important here to get something going. And we've got quite this down channel that we're still going to have to best. Now, we came very, very close to our 200-day moving average, and that may be just enough. Maybe we don't need to get all the way there. So watch that carefully here in the chart. Now, if we take a look at our QQQ, now our QQQ had a good little relief rally yesterday, pushing back up. We found support in the chart just a tiny bit higher in that line that I marked. And perhaps we could retest this if the bears were to get going. The first step is if the bears were to do something, they're going to have to push down through that area right there. So pushing through there, and then maybe we catch that retest. If, however, the bulls find inspiration, and I think there's every reason to believe that they could, kind of an oversold area in the market, then pushing up first thing, let's see if we can break through this area of the chart, breaking back higher. If we can get through there, then we'll start looking at this area up here and just kind of keeping in mind these big candles in here could provide some resistance to that move back up. We'll need something kind of special maybe to push us back up in that chart. Our moving averages here, we did test the 200-day moving average fully. Actually pierced through and bouncing back up here on that. So watch that today as well. That 200-day could be very important if we happen to retest those lows. And if we look at the poor old Russell, boy, that Russell just continuing to struggle here. If you look across here, this big red line is that support and resistance area of all of this price action from 2021 and 2022. And yesterday we broke back below that. And with the rally back up, we ended up catching that area as resistance. So if the bulls can follow through, we need to push through that area of resistance and maybe coming up into here and then beyond into this bigger area of resistance in the chart. So watch that carefully here. And if the bears have anything to say, well, you can certainly see that possibility of pushing back down to retest yesterday's open, and then we'll see if we can hold some of these areas of price support in the chart. I'm going to push this line up here right under or right to the tail of that candle in there so we can keep a close eye on it in that chart. There's quite a bit of congestion in here providing some of that support. And if we take a look at our moving averages here, well, we started headed toward our 500-day moving average in here. Didn't quite make it there before we caught that bounce here on support. Keeping in mind that our 50-day moving average is declining pretty sharply here, and we may soon be headed toward the death cross here in IWM. That's where the 50 crosses back down through the 200-day. So a lot of work here for IWM to really pick up and look great. Let's take a look at our VIX. Our VIX obviously pretty substantially elevated here at this point. You probably noticed those wide bid-ask spreads. I tried to pick up a couple of bullish credit spreads yesterday, and the premium just wasn't there because the bid-ask spreads were so wide. If you take a look right here, we're pushing this resistance. We popped through this resistance here in the chart, and we extended up, came nearly up to these highs up here. So if those bulls can find or continue to find that inspiration, we need to see this starting to ease back, get below this 23.5 handle area here, breaking back down. We might find some support down in this area of the chart. little bit of support down in this area of the chart, so watch that carefully. If those bulls do find inspiration, we will have to be keeping a pretty close eye on this potential uptrend in here that's very, very steep, as a potential area of price support as well. Now, if the bears have anything to say today, if we were to get some kind of whipsaw or even some more bearishness coming into the market, then I would place some resistance right up in here in the chart to see if we can pop through there. If we were to do that, obviously we can go much higher in the VIX, so watch that carefully. Particularly as an option trader, this gets kind of expensive on those premiums when we're this elevated in the VIX. Let's take a look at our T20s. Our T21-22 indicator, well, yesterday was a pretty darn rough day here for that, as you can see, pulling back into the bullish reversal zone gives me that hope of that relief rally. Now we have finally shaken off some of that extreme overbought situation here in the market, and we're down here testing these low areas. Now keep in mind, doesn't necessarily mean we have to make that bounce here today. You'll notice that we have evidence in here that sometimes we can remain down here in this area and consolidate here just a bit. So it doesn't necessarily mean we rip all the way back to the top just today. Watch that carefully. If we do, however, find inspiration, the easy move now is for the bulls. We've got plenty of upside opportunity for those to push to the upside. There's not much in here space in T21-22 for that downside move, so I kind of favor that relief rally. Now whether that relief rally can really grow much momentum into the market, that's something we'll have to see. Now if we take a look at our T21-08, obviously not a good day yesterday. 23.5% of the stocks holding above their 40-day moving average. We did end up holding on to this area of price support in the chart, so I'm going to give that up to the bulls. That is a good sign. Now to see if we can bounce up off of that area and come back up and start retesting some of these resistance levels in the chart is the thing we'll be watching. Of course, if those bears have anything to say today and we drop below here, we could easily see some of these areas tested down here as well. Our T2107, rough day yesterday, dropping hard. 35% of the stocks holding above their 200-day moving average. Pretty tough to make a big bullish case when that is going on. We caught a little support and didn't drop through here yesterday, so if we can get that relief rally, we'll start looking for some of these areas of resistance in the chart to be tested as we come back up. And of course, you can see we can go much lower here in T2107. If those bears have anything to say, maybe we push down into here. And just remember, the volatility is really high and continues to be very high. And even though our T2101 had an increase in breadth yesterday, it wasn't on a bullish wave. So the bears are controlling here in the breadth of the market and pushing this breadth back up. As we rally, if we get that relief rally, we need to see this breadth continue to expand on that bullish wave. If we start to rally back up and we see that breadth fading here in the market, well, the relief rally could be short-lived in that circumstance. So watch that carefully here if we do happen to get that relief rally. And my fingers are kind of crossed and thinking that the possibility is we will get a relief rally. Will it catch any momentum? That will be the question. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar is going to be very, very important for us to pay attention to. Here today, we've got some news coming out here this morning that could be substantial. We've already got mortgage applications here this morning. Mortgage applications making a big change here today. Last time we were a negative 1.2. We've got composite index at 20.4. Big change. We've got purchase index at 9.1, up from a 0.2. And the refinance index was huge, up 37. From a negative 3.6. So big change in those mortgage apps. We've got an ADP coming up here in a few moments. Keep an eye on that. Right now, the consensus is suggesting about 162. Remember, what we're going to get in this ADP is the first full month of the ramifications of federal layoffs that are happening there on the East Coast and what those ramifications may look like. So kind of keep an eye on that number here this morning. We're going to get the PMI composite number here today. PMI composite, they are suggesting this comes in flat with the flash. Stays kind of the same. Both of these would be a decline from the prior reading, so showing maybe just a little slowdown in our economy. We have factory orders that will be in today. They're looking for an improvement in factory orders from a negative 0.9 to 1.4. That would be bullish, I would think, for the market here. We've got an ISM number that's also looking for an improvement by consensus. Kind of seems interesting that the PMI would be declining, but they're looking for ISM services to increase just ever so slightly, though, from 52.8 to 53. Watch that one carefully. That one may have a chance of missing if the weakness in the economy continues to show itself. And then we've got a petroleum status here for today. Keep an eye on that. We've got a bill auction and a beige book report at 2 o'clock with those Treasury buyback announcements. As you look into Thursday, just kind of keep in mind, we've got a pretty busy day as well. We're going to get that Challenger job cut report, international trading goods, jobless claims, productivity and costs. We've got a bunch of Fed speak here tomorrow. We've got wholesale inventories. We've got a natural gas report. We've got Waller, some bond auctions, Bostic in here later in the day, and a Fed balance sheet. So keep an eye on that. Remember, we've got Jerome Powell on the calendar and a bunch of Fed speak here happening on Friday after that employment situation number. So we still got a lot of potential volatility making reports coming our way this week. So be prepared for that. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar here this morning. In our earnings calendar, we've got, a few notables here to pay attention to. Nothing that would be exactly huge market moving reports here this morning. You guys can take a screenshot of that if you have an interest in it, and then I'm going to run through these really quickly here this morning. We've got ANF reporting this morning. We've got Brown-Forman that will be reporting. CGON is on that list. DIN, big old pop and drop in that pre-market on that one. Foot Locker will be reporting today. REVG is in there. And SMRT, boy, that's a nice little pop there on REVG. Nothing showing here on Smart yet. SOBO. Well, if I could type, SOBO getting a nice little pop here this morning. And then Thor Industries looking a little bit on the bearish side here this morning. This afternoon, we're going to be DSGX. We'll be in there. We've got KGS. We've got LB in there. We've got Marvel that will be reporting. We're going to hear from MDB. SNBR, VEEV will be in there, VSCO, YEXT, ZS, and ZYME will be on that notable list for this afternoon. So there's your earnings for today that could be somewhat notable. If we take a look at the stocks that could be setting up for today, but if you could do me that quick favor before we go there, if you guys could click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful, you could do me that favor and click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who does take the time to do that. And I do apologize. My life here is so hectic with my brother passing, with my mother-in-law passing. It has just been hectic around here, but I will be back on task answering those comments as much as possible. So thank you to everyone who does take the time to do that. Let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up. And remember, everyone, they're not recommendations to buy or sell any security. In fact, I would say everyone needs to be just pretty darn careful with the volatility of this market. A lot of things are moving around, and we could see big whipsaws still, big point moves. So make sure you plan your risk carefully. First off, take a look at Biogen. Biogen still in a major downtrend, but notice we got this little tiny higher low starting to happen there in Biogen. Keep a close eye on that. If that were to get some bullishness, one of the areas of the market that tends to do pretty well when the markets are fearful or worry is the healthcare sector and drug sector of the market can tag along with the healthcare sector to the upside. So we've got drug maker here, Biogen, starting to pick back up here off this bottom. Still hasn't broken through that 50-day moving average, but you can see that possibility. If those bulls were able to push through here, we would be up in that rounded bottom breakout pattern pretty quickly. So watch carefully there. CRL, another healthcare, nice little bullish pattern showing up in the chart. Excuse me for my voice here. All that travel got me messed up here, I guess. Inverted head and shoulders pattern. I really like the way this pattern is looking in here. Notice this downtrend. If we break the downtrend, we hold that first higher low. That often starts that upside trend for that push through to the upside. Keep an eye on that. If that can push through this 50-day moving average, that could be interesting to be paying attention to. So watch that carefully. If we take a look at Baxter, another healthcare in here, very bullish pattern, breaking through that downtrend, holding above some support in the chart. You can see it may have to rest a little bit more. You can see trend would be out here, so it may have to rest more in here, but watch that carefully. If we can find that bullish action in here, that could easily push on through to the upside. I would watch that closely. We've got to continue to keep an eye on some of these utilities. NEE had an alert here yesterday. It popped through that alert. I didn't pick up anything here yesterday, but watching that carefully in here, if this holds in this little upside trend, we might have a little bit of a push. And we've been seeing those utilities holding in there strong, and we're in a rounded bottom breakout pattern here on NEE. So keep an eye on that. Yesterday, as we started to bounce back up, we're finally getting a little bit of relief in some of those defensive sector stocks. Eased up just a little bit yesterday. Pushed right up here to this resistance here in Altria. Moved right up in there. Any rest or pullback in here that holds along this trend, holds along some support in here. Watch for that next opportunity potentially coming in that. And I would say the same when we look at stocks like KHC after breaking through up here. This is still a very, very bullish pattern. Although it did pull back yesterday, maybe it needs to rest a little bit more in here, but you can see we're in that rounded bottom breakout pattern. Take a look at some of those really old boring stocks like Verizon, holding in that bullish pattern here. We did react negatively to some price resistance here in the chart, maybe a little rest or pullback that sets up the next opportunity. And the same with AT&T. Pretty strong pullback yesterday on that move. I have a bias here because I am holding this based on this long term, but not a major surprise that we ran into resistance and then found some pullback here on that. But just keep an eye on these. Any kind of rest or pullback could set up that opportunity for those to continue moving on higher. Take a look at Stone in here. Stone, anytime we break the trend and we break a support, any rally back up in here, I would be watching as a potential short. The only way this can regain my confidence is break back through up here and then hold some kind of a higher low to resume that upside trend. So there's a lot of stocks like this right now. Be very, very careful in just blindly buying these dips because we could smack our head right into resistance in those charts and see more selling coming into the market. So with that, everyone, running this video a little bit long, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great results in your trading. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your kindness. I really appreciate that. Y'all take care. Be safe. See you back here bright and early Thursday morning. Wish you all the best.